want to now talk about Sisters for Sisters Network Incorporated. Tell us all, educate us all about what the network is and tell us how it came to be.
It came to being in the same company that I was just talking about. If that company had not folded, I think I would not be where I've been and what I'm doing today. So sometimes, and let me give you just a little bit of history. I worked for a telecommunication company back in the 80s and 90s and up to 2000. Loved the company. It was a company that was growing, that was doing well, telecommunications. And if you remember the days of MCI and MCI
Sure,
telecommunications,
sure.
um, wonderful experience. It was a period in time where the company was sold to another gentleman. And I always joke about when I worked for MCI, they treated their employees well. They invested in their people. But when it was moved over and sold to another gentleman, I always joke about, I remember we would go to the training and stayed at the best hotels, Ritz Carlton and da, 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 da. And then when it was trans and sold to this other gentleman, you're lucky if you stayed at Motel 6 to give you the balance in the two, right? And as time went on, the gentleman that took over ownership and bought the company was eventually sent to prison for I call it cooking the books, as if you understand what I'm saying. Give you a good example. Let's say that the stock for the company, because the stock was doing so well, it went up like $120 per share and went way beyond that. But let's say the stock was worth $100, and the president said, "Oh, it's worth 175." And when it hit Wall Street and it hit the community and found out it was only worth $20.
Hmm.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about, cooking the books.
Right.
And so when that happened, the company began to fall.
Right.
And eventually, at that time, um, they had to start laying people off. They had to release people. And at that time, that was like 2002, um, I was one of them. And to me, it was a blessing because I had been with the company for 23 years. But at the same time, I was released with 18,000 other employees. And if that had not happened, I probably would have been still with that company. I probably would have retired from MCI, but it happened, and it allowed me to venture out and took me into a whole different world,
Okay.
a world that I could not even today say that I probably would have been engaged or involved in, and that's with networking. Um,
Ah. Hmm.
when I was waiting for this transition to be released from MCI, I can remember very distinctly. I went over across the street. I was working at Tyson's Corner, and I went over to the mall, and there was a bookstore. And I walked in, and there was a book on the shelf that says, "A setback is a setup for a comeback." Dr. Willie Jolly. And I had enough money to either buy lunch or the book, or I might have had enough to buy both, the lunch and the book. And it worked out so well, I did. I bought the book and I sat there and I started reading the book. And I said, wow, this is just on time, so refreshing. And luckily enough, I found out that he was doing a workshop in downtown DC. And I decided, hey, I got plenty of time on my hand. I'm going to do this because I felt that despite whatever was going on in my life and transitioning from a job to job, you still have to grow. You
Right.
still have to do some things to make it happen. And so I saw an opportunity and I said, why not? So I went to his workshop. And as soon as I walked into the door and into the room, who did I see? I saw Sharon Bullock. And I always laugh and joke about that. Sharon and I were at Morgan State together. Now, look at this, it's 25 years
Wow. Wow.
since the last time I saw her. She didn't know me, but I remembered her. That's how she stood out among the campus. And that brought us together, that reconnected us,
Right.
and we were in the room together. And life took us on this journey that today I can't even believe it's been 20 years.
And that's really like the I guess the beginnings, the seeds, the seedlings of what was to be Sisters for Sisters Network.
Network. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And let me tell you what happened. Um, Dr. Willie Johnley had told us that he was going to be speaking at this very powerful networking conference. And he said, y'all guys should come and go. Well, I have a cousin who was planning to open up a nursing staffing business. Sharon wanted to open up a boutique, and she had a friend who was in the makeup line. And so we said, okay, look, it's four of us. Let's go. And so we showed up at the BWI airport, and I said to them jokingly, look, guys, we're going to this powerful conference. We need to be somebody. And they laughed at me. They really, I'm looking back, they laughed and they said, what are you talking about? I said, look, we're going to this conference. And I said, it's four of us. We're sisters. We're not biological sisters, but we're sisters. And then the word network. And so we got to Cleveland. That's where the conference was. And the first thing folks wanted to know, well, who were we? And I said, we're Sisters for Sisters Network.
I love
And
it.
it clicked. They got it. And, I sat there and I said, I hope and pray there's not another Sisters for Sisters Network up here, because we would be in real deep trouble, right? So we made it. And we left that conference inspired, motivated, encouraged. And I'm like saying, but what do we do with this?
Right.
What do we do with it? And so we came back home and we said, we have it. And so we said, we're going to take the name and we're going to go to Baltimore and register our name at the state of Maryland. And that's been history, 20 years strong.
Wow. So, you know,